Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. What's going on, everyone? Happy Tuesday, April 14th, 2026. It is 3:33 on the clock. I love it. I absolutely love it. We're going to get right into this message using the Kipperish deck by Intuitive Kev. Shout out to him. And yeah, I'll be out of your way. Let's see. Oh, Priestess. All right. Starseed. Oh my goodness. Ooh, that's some strong energy right there. Confusion and delusion. Somebody might be confused by someone's identity because of their appearance. Yeah, especially with these two together, like how she's kind of like scantily clad, I believe is the phrase. And even the priestess got her cleavage hoisted up. It's something about, not looking like the conventional, not having the conventional aesthetic that someone of a particular status or position or influence might have, such as a religious or a spiritual leader, or such as someone that is high ranking in some way, shape, or form, or has a particularly high pedigree, cosmically, even if it's not humanly or carnally, I guess I should say. It's like somebody, they are very unsuspecting aesthetically. And it it creates a bit of an illusion, maybe even a glamour to some degree, because what you see is there may be more to someone than what meets the eye. That's the first thing, or maybe even not just aesthetically, but there's a heavy focus on aesthetic here. It could even be how you speak, or where you come from, your background is unassuming. Your pedigree, or the origin of you as a being is unassuming in comparison to that. Like where you come from, your pedigree, your education, your upbringing, your because it could even be someone that grew up particularly religious that now functions in a spiritual way, or someone that what was the other thing that I heard aside from aesthetic? Oh, I was also hearing, someone that can give off a very sexy vibe, or alluring, or attractive even vibe, that you wouldn't expect to be so full of substance, is surprising. That was the other thing that I saw. Like people just kind of take you as a pretty face, or somebody that's cute, or on site you may look like a good time gal, or someone that is maybe even superficial, or self-absorbed, or whatever, and then come to find out there's like a whole nother depth to you that would leave some kind of confounded, especially if they took you at a particular face value and then handled you on account of that, so that here lies the confusion from the illusion of judging a book by its cover. That's what I'm getting off the top, but let's see where else this is going. Or somebody looking very common, especially considering where they come from, how they talk, their education, their experience, their background, their age, maybe their gender even. And like I said, like something of them, you know, is just astounding in terms of like how knowledgeable they are, or self-aware, or deeply conscious, ultra creative, focused, confident, compassionate. You know, these are all the things that wise, intuitive, can't even leave that out, intuitive, and maybe perhaps even a bit psychic, especially next to the star seed. I say a lot of bit psychic, where you feel like people don't even, she ain't paying me no mind, or they don't even really see, they can't see me for me, or see my antics, or see through me. And lo and behold, with a high priestess star seed, that's someone that can see right through your soul. And you don't even have to be in front of them. They can see you from a distance. They can see you through dimensions, let alone in proximity. It's like you'd have absolutely no way to hide or to be deceiving. Look at that. Entity attachment. Wow, what did I say? I'm gonna take that upright. I mean, it could be just as scary in the reverse, because I would say in the reverse, in this case, next to confusion and illusion, this is someone that is possessed. It's one thing to kind of willingly allow an entity or some type of foreign frequency to take residence, you know, in your body, and you kind of just coexist in a sense. But this is given, especially if flipping in the reverse, that someone no longer has control over their vessel. That is wild. Look at the eyes. I never saw this card. Oh, Cab, do your thing. I see the shadow in the back. It's like a shadow of like kind of a demonic or devilish figure in the back. Oh yeah, somebody could be strung out, maybe on their addictions, between the confusion and illusion and the entity attachment. It could even be as practical as that, if we don't want to take the mystical route. But given we started with priestess and starseed, you know what it's given? Somebody's in need of an exorcism. They're in need of an exorcism, and it may be at a point where they don't even realize, they're not even conscious enough to seek one at this point. You know, they may be so far gone that there would have to be an intercession on somebody's behalf to even do the work, which really isn't so effective, you know, because that's why it's so important to maintain possession of your own soul, you know, as much as you possibly can, or reclaim it where you feel you've lost it, because a cleansing effect, I mean, it could take a strong practitioner to intercede on someone's behalf, but it's dangerous work, especially if somebody is not willing and conscious enough to make agreement with the work that's being done. Not only could you be putting yourself in harm's way for that entity to take residence in you, you know, and you catch a stray, but you could also exert yourself to cleanse someone's auric field, and that could be by way of prayer, ritual, you know, whatever your particular brand of man, whatever your particular brand of practice may be in that regard. And again, this definitely is interesting because it gives way, like on site, you might not even look like you into that, or someone might not even realize how deep your power really does resonate to be able to be effective in such a way. But I like to say, to the healer, to the starseed, to the priestess, the practitioner that means well, you have to be ultra discerning before you start laying your hands or even your prayers and words on anyone, especially at this point. Just because you can do a thing doesn't mean that you should. And some things are just too far gone. Like at some point, somebody might just have to find their way out of their possession first, by God's grace, before someone can step in to intercede on behalf of the divine. It just seems like it's too high risk, if you ask me. Courthouse. Yeah, because that gives karmic vibes, like justice. Judgment, probably more so than even justice. Like this is a determination of someone's fate. So, in this season, you got to be careful who you intercede for, because you could find yourself in good faith and with good intentions interceding, and what you could actually be doing is interfering with the divine's justice, and that would ultimately kind of loop you in as an accomplice, or again as someone that could catch a stray, and now you absorbing what somebody else is going through. I feel like you have to use discernment on using your gifts and your abilities to intercede and to help and to serve others in general at this time. But you definitely, I would reserve my my intercession for those that demonstrate a willingness and a consciousness of what they are requesting. And in that regard, there also would need to be some demonstration of self-help. Like what has someone done to cleanse themselves? What repentance is at play, if any at all? Is someone willing to admit or be honest? Are they even clear about how they got here in the first place? Like all of those things would have to be taken into account, even still with prayer and supplication. Because before somebody gets this far gone, there would have had to been a series of poor conscious choices that were made, where the divine whole time was redirecting someone onto another path, and they had to continue to refuse or continue to align themselves with entities, people, places, things that would prey on their vulnerability. That's best case scenario and worst case scenario all at the same time. But there's no assumption of sheer innocence here when it comes to possession on this level, where you damn near don't even know where you end and the entity begins, or where the addiction begins and starts. You know what I mean? Like when it becomes a way of life, whatever we're talking about here. Like I said, you would have had to consciously made agreement with that dependency or that attachment. So even after plenty of cautions and warnings, perhaps even to not to do that, you know. So it's like, at what point do you have to really take full account, even if it's a matter of somebody being vulnerable to someone else's actions, you know, like getting hooked up with someone that did work on you or whatever. It's like there's still very little excuse. There could be plenty of grace, but there's very little excuse for that outcome, because there at some point throughout that experience there had to be some type of wake up or alert or alarm, like these people aren't for you, or this person is not for you, this person is no good. There had to be some signs and signals that were there, blaring signs and signals, because the divine don't do you like that you had to choose to disregard or just ignore altogether. So then why would someone that has more or less, as we all have, averted some of the same pitfalls, maybe even worse, why should they put themselves in harm's way on account of what someone else chose to align themselves with? But, you know, to each his own. That's just where I stand with it. Ritual, exactly. Third parties, okay. Hello, somebody. Somebody willingly submitted themselves to something that wasn't righteous. Not that ritual is altogether bad. I mean, there's rituals in religion, there's rituals in spirituality, there's rituals in everyday life. But in the way that I'm sensing and how I'm speaking of it, and then third party sitch in this deck, that's not just a 3 of Pentacles or a 3 of Cups. That's really more heavy on the negative inflection of a third party situation, where, like I said, this girl back here is thinking all types of diabolical things that have to be bleeped, you know what I mean, or whatever the situation is. It's like somebody got themselves entangled in something that was not forwarding, maybe not even safe, you know. Could have literally got mixed. I know I didn't say that for no reason, like getting mixed up in some type of situationship where you were getting worked on or being glamored or being charmed, being bound. Yeah, courthouse here, that could be some type of binding, but again, that someone at least at some point willingly submitted themselves to. And at the points where it became a sticky situation, I will say they chose not to see or take the exit sign. It's like getting with somebody and all of a sudden your life just starts falling apart, where things start to be a struggle, where you don't feel like yourself, or you get sick. Oh my gosh, my goodness, that just came over my throat all of a sudden. You get sick, or you can't stop feeling ill, or again, addictions. You get into a situation where it's a lot of partying and bullshit, and that becomes your life, or that becomes, you know, your routine with the ritual card. That's just the practical side. But again, it can go mystical. It can go diabolical even, you know. In this case, we got the evidence here for it. But I felt it anyway. As soon as confusion and illusion came out, it was like, oh, that don't feel right. So it's like somebody that just allowed themselves to go deeper into a rabbit hole until they come to a point where they can't see any way out. And the things and people, the people, places, and things that they've surrounded themselves with are not there to help them see their way out. They're there to keep them eternally bound, and disillusioned and lost. So that's why I said, like, this is an energy on the outside looking in that may have the potential to help, to intercede, maybe even to interrupt. However, at what cost? It just may not be worth it to put yourself in that type of harm's way when there's such a stronghold still active here. And even though this kind of came out in a struggle, sideways, maybe it is someone that really is wanting to break free in some small part of their psyche, in their subconscious. They're still their organic self, to know that this is not what they signed up for, at least not to this extent, or not to have this outcome. But the will is not strong to pull themselves out. The will is not strong. And that could practically be just finding yourself back in the same circles of frenemies or bad influences time and time again, when you know for a damn fact that nothing good ever comes with being around these influences. Nothing good has ever really produced, at least in the long run, or for a long term, from being in certain scenarios. But you just keep going back, keep doing it, keep smoking, or keep over drinking, and a range of other things that could be ritualistic, and also attachments as well. Bad habits, bad influences, bad people, poor choices, like whatever it is, it's proven itself to be no good. And if the will is not strong to pull self out of harm's way, then far be it for someone else to do the work for them. Nah, bruh. Legal again. And I saw legal when I was shuffling, actually. That's giving more of the justice. I feel like courthouse might be judgment. I don't know what Kev meant by it, even though there is a book, a digital book, but I've never looked at it, a guidebook. But that's what it's given for me. Like this. And this could also be like a double down on the righteousness aspect, that someone has some favor in this particular brand of work, like someone as a priestess and perhaps a starseed, but priestess specifically, it's like somebody being ordained to do intercessory work or to be a healer. Like that's their, what's the word? I keep hearing it and it's going away. That's their, not their trade, but their craft. Yeah, like that's their craft, to maybe help people kind of break, interesting, to help people release themselves from binding contracts, maybe even strongholds, to put them back on track onto a more pure and organic path of manifestation, with expectations here of their path of becoming, like their organic path of self-expression, even where they can expect good things to come or to manifest or to be created. Yeah, so I'm getting that here, that somebody's definitely qualified to do the job, but there still is even more of a responsibility to be selective with that. I don't know, like with your, because it also gives way to the fact that while you're helping someone break strongholds and unsavory bindings and contracts off of their life, you could also be putting yourself in danger of kind of like almost taking up that contract, like take or being somehow incorporated or kind of thrown into it as well. Same as I was saying before, like incurring someone else's karma or sharing it, even because you're interfering in a way that's not divine. But for those circumstances, as I said, where the will is strong, the integrity, the intent of integrity is there, and it all checks out, there's a high efficacy rate for someone to really intercede in a powerful way and to really help someone like break the chains, shackles, strongholds, the bindings, I think I said chains already, to help maybe even break the addictions or limitations as well. Is there, it's possible. But there, to me, like the criteria has to be, again, with someone that has already done a bit of damage control on their own and that has a strong will to continue the work on their own and not just to be kind of like coddled through it. And so imagine like you encounter someone that is calling on you for your special craft or whatever it is that you do, and you give them a recommendation, but you observe that they're not really taking it to heart. They're not absorbing it, they're not taking it seriously, they're not activating it or actualizing it. That's grounds for hands off. And that could even be as casually as in friendships. I definitely get that. Like when you encounter friends that will absorb your energy for everything that you're willing to give and will always come to you for advice or your perspective or even just to vent at times, and you give an offering of the best that you have to someone, but they keep, they just completely disregard it and still keep further attaching themselves even more, and even finding themselves in deeper situations, or keep having the same, keep doing the same thing over and over, even though it's producing the same outcome. It's like everybody has their own power of choice, and it's no one's particular right to judge for what someone chooses for themselves. But what you do have the right to judge is how you insert yourself or sacrifice yourself or submit, sacrifice or submit, however intense or however severe or simple the situation may be. You have control over that. And then and then if you continue to submit yourself to a circumstance such as that, where someone's just going to continue, like they come power up off of your good advice, your affirmations, and your pick me up, and then go back into the same treachery, you kind of are putting yourself at harm's way to continue to harbor a relationship like that, because it's only a matter of time before it has some effect on you, even if it's just emotionally, where you become so invested in somebody's situation that you almost take it on as your own, or you become so invested in the fact that someone's not taking sound advice or even listening to themselves, and it's like hard to watch. It takes a toll on you psychologically, and so that's a simple way that it could take effect. But you can mess around and somebody's whole situation could just completely consume you and rope you in a way that you have nothing to do with. No, no man, no sir. Like somebody doing something illegal and you don't know about it, but somehow you become an accomplice because you don't know they done roped your name into something, or just you guilty by association. And that's just the practical side. The mystical and diabolical side could be like entities that someone else is struggling somehow find their way into your auric field and try to take up residence. And they may have a hard time doing that depending on how high you vibrate, but they damn sure will try. And all of a sudden you find things going wrong in your life suddenly out of nowhere. Funds being depleted, losses left and right, mishaps every time you turn around, feeling uneasy or feeling unnatural to your typical self. And you gotta be real careful. Like, you can't even have casual acquaintances to some extent that have the potential to be harmful to you, in a secondary type of way. It's unfortunate, but sometimes you just really gotta let those things go, or those people go, until they have the will to kind of find their own way. Ooh, that's most definitely in reverse. Hello. What's the opposite of reverse? Goodbye. Yeah, like I said, and right up under confusion and illusion, like, no you won't, devil. Not today, Satan. Not up in here. Some people you just have to bid adieu. Hope for the best for them, pray for the rest for them, but with no apologies, no guilt whatsoever, you may be called to start distancing yourself in a way that you may not really even want to. You may have a big heart and a lot of compassion and grace for a nation, but some folks are just not in a position to fully receive it, and you have to accept that for your own safety and well-being and prosperity. Because even if you don't get hurt, it still could kind of hamper your manifestation or your self-actualization. That's what I think I was trying to get to with the star seed. Like self-actualizing, being stunted because of your surroundings or your associations. Oh, divination and false narrative. Look at this. And false narrative was kind of hiding behind the divination. So somebody, that's unfortunate. This could be a side note, but somebody's like getting information from a false prophet, or from someone that may have particular healing qualities and abilities, but they may have the capability, but they're not necessarily, either they have the capability and they're not using it, they're not qualified or authorized, as I said before. Like, it could be someone maybe that's none the wiser to the discernment that needs to be taken into account, and they lend themselves as a practitioner, as an intercessor, but either their efforts are ineffectual because they don't have the authorization or the green light to intercede in that way, or they end up doing more damage, unintentionally so, or they do damage with intention, which is particularly the false prophet energy here, or some type of false practitioner, where they might even be taking somebody's money claiming that they doing some type of cleansing spell, or some type of clearing ritual, or advising someone on, yeah, that's what it could be, like poor advice or ill advisement on what you could do, you know, bad judgment calls that are being absorbed in desperation for someone to want to be relieved of what they are experiencing. But again, it's ineffective on all of those accounts that I said, and the foundational reason is because someone doesn't yet possess the will to heal themselves. It's not strong enough, because that's all you really need in the grand scheme of things. You don't need anybody, no human being on the outside. If the will is strong enough, the divine will conduct healing energy through that. Now, it may not be pretty, it may not be comfortable, and it could even be a bit scary at times, but it will be effectual. That's for sure. But if somebody's going to the wrong source for their relief or for their healing, it's like the Temu version here of the high priestess. This divination energy here is like Temu high priest. And the false narrative is given same with the third party sit, just like they're surrounding themselves with energies that either they don't want to believe are no good for them, or somebody just has no choice. Like they just roped into an environment or an association that, I don't know, it's given that somebody is more fearful of being outcasted from or excluded from than the damage it could be doing by being included. And yeah, it's given like a grave disparity here, like false narrative and third party sitch. Like I said, Temu version of high priestess is given Temu star seeds here, where these are folks that are operating in certain frequencies of craft, but you know, it's not organic. It's not organic. And it could be the same folks that somebody that are claiming to be contributing to somebody's healing and liberation are really the ones doing the work to keep them bound or binded. I don't know which one it is. Is it binded or bound? You know, you get what I'm saying. It's like you think you running your friends or your circle is your refuge, and they're the source of your captivity. And spreading the word, or the information about how bad you're doing in the process. Maybe in your face, like, oh yeah, I feel so bad for you. Let me help you. This is what you got to do. Let me, give false support in your face, but behind your back, the child, you see how bad he looks? He looks terrible. Telling everybody your business, why you look so bad, and this is terrible. And in that regard, these are not the influences that are going to want to see you do better, to be healed, to improve your lifestyle, they're not going to want to see that. You're too much of a source of entertainment. Yeah, Earth Angel. Damn. It's like somebody's salvation is here though, but they got a lot to get through to get it. That's the thing. It's like what they are surrounding themselves with are the off brand of divinity. Not even off brand, it's just, what's the right word? Not off brand, but like synthetic. It's something real fake and phony and fabricated and put on and deceptive here. Somebody might have thought that they were submitting themselves, committing themselves, even pledging themselves to some type of society of stars. Maybe even so, this could be some celebrity shit, which we know is Temu starseed all day. And they just felt, again, they like the ritual of it all, you know, if you know, is how you just find yourself committing to doing more and more things that you would never do in normal life or under normal circumstances. But once you in deep, like pledging an organization that is like legit, you know, like I said, if you know, there's certain things that you submit yourself to for the purposes of, you know, the end result, the final outcome of acceptance to membership, you know, inclusion and membership into the brotherhood or the sisterhood that you would never do in real life. Not even if you were getting paid for it, would you do it? But at a certain point, you find yourself so consumed by the process of sorts, of which I have no issue with. You know, I take no issue with the, you know, official or processes of pledged organizations. Like I said, everybody has their choice and their threshold of what you will do, what you won't, what you will accept, what you'll go along with, and what you won't. From firsthand experience, I know that you will do things that you never thought you would do in real life. And even when you know you're in the best of hands and in the best of care, it still is a bit of a, you know, kind of a mind fuck to kind of have that outer body experience. And once you're at a certain point, you've gone too far, you've invested too much to even fathom quitting or turning back or just, you know, letting it all be in vain. That would just be crazy, you know? So you go the distance for that grand prize in the end. And depending on, you know, where you are and what you do, it's worth it. You know, it has its advantages and its benefits for sure. Even just the character building, again, depending on who you with now. Everybody doesn't have the same experience, but even the character building is valuable, if not precious, in fact. But in another sense, it's like having the opposite experience where you think you are pledging to something that's going to yield some great value in the end with people that you're going to be productively connected with, and only to find out that the whole situation is really deteriorating you from the inside out. It's literally not breaking you down to build you up, as most experiences do, or good experiences do, but just breaking you down. And oftentimes, before you even realize you're being broken down, when you're not even in possession of you don't even feel like you have choices anymore. You know, like you don't feel like you have any power of your own to protect yourself or direct yourself. That's a dangerous place to be. And then to come to find out that that was all for nothing, and you know, like you still waiting for the big payout or for some sustainable payout that's never seeming to come, but yet same effect, you're still hanging in there, still staying dedicated because you expect that it will one day. You know, God forbid the day you quit be the day that it was supposed to all be over, or you were supposed to get the big reward that you were in it for in the first place, you know. And then that's what keeps you going deeper and deeper down that dark hole, because there was never a prize in it for you. Lo and behold, you were just a living sacrifice. The courthouse can definitely give, when you think about like the Hierophant and things like that, for some reason that gives me the vibes of like some type of secret society. Oh, that's way too much commitment. There it is, though. Exactly. You done committed yourself and binded yourself for the long run. And you got to put on a happy face and learn to love it, because at this point, it's no turning back, unfortunately, for some. But by the grace of the divine that would compel you to release yourself before anybody could intercede or get to you to help you. It would have to be self by some miracle. And maturity, wisdom, that's the miracle, the wisdom. But God forbid somebody get, look how, I mean, mature man, God forbid somebody get all the way to old age before they find themselves released from these clutches. I mean, it's still better than not at all, for sure, but but see what I'm saying? Like, this is what I mean. Like, that might be the fate for someone. That might be the justice and the judgment and the justice for someone to find their way out on their own, you know, find themselves to their own spiritual guidance from the inside out, even if it takes them a whole lifetime to do it or a whole season to do it. And here someone else might come, qualified or otherwise, interrupting that divine process. No wonder you could ultimately get clipped, you know, in the crossfire, because it might be the justice and the karma for someone to come to their own saving grace by way of knowledge and wisdom for themselves, so that it sticks. Because if you, what's the saying, like if you give a man a fish, they'll eat for a day, but if you teach a man to fish, they can, you know, they can survive a lifetime, you know, or feed themselves for a lifetime. This is the classic case of that, where someone has to be a fisherman of their own organic being, to find it in the rubble, in the distortions and the illusions and the confusions that they ultimately created for themselves. And the best that anyone that has the power of intercession particularly, or power of prayer specifically, can do is to project the best possible outcome for anyone in that situation, because it has an effect on all of us collectively in any way. You know, the conscious collective can be affected by someone doing their best or their worst. So just because you have the power to create change for someone doesn't mean you should. And it doesn't mean because you have the power of prayer in your tongue intention, consciously that you have to be of service in that way either, but it certainly denotes that that could be enough for someone to even hold the best intentions for someone to kind of find themselves back to themselves, to retrieve their sacred soul, to find, to cultivate the will to heal on their own. Because if you go down for the count trying to jump in and save somebody else, then that's, one man or woman, one more man or woman down that needs to be contributing their energy to the best possible outcome and the greatest good of all. But if you are so bound up and tied up in somebody else's stuff, then that distracts you from doing that. So certainly don't underestimate the power of positive projection and good intentions, and of course prayer specifically, or just speaking life to someone or about someone, even loving someone from a distance, where you feel guided to. That could be a source of interception that is safe and that is effective overall, while someone, as I said, just gets it out the mud, and maybe perhaps as the will continues to strengthen and the power of intercession is persistent, it won't be so treacherous of a battle after all. At least maybe somebody will find themselves healed and whole in a mature state, even if it takes years from now or, whatever. But at least, the hope is there, the faith is there for them. And the belief is there in them to be able to do that for themselves and in co-creativity with the divine without wasting any of your divine time. Ooh, wow. Divinity. Wow, this is amazing. This is not the interesting animosity. Yeah, because some folks gonna be mad to see somebody get it out the mud or pull themselves up by the bootstraps, or they may be mad if at your abstinence from intercession in the way that they perhaps would like for it to be, or they may be mad at your intercession even at a distance, because it's here on narrative, false narrative, and this Temu high priestess here could feel some type of way that what they put their hands on to create, to make, for it to be a negative situation or detriment to someone, like I said, hands-on, up close and personal, you have the power to project change and make a difference from a distance without even having to touch the situation or touch the person or even encounter the person. That could be a disruption to somebody's whole program, like I said, where the intentions were to keep somebody eternally bound, unable to ever reach this actualization of their divinity organically. It's not in the cards for someone to recover, not with this level of treachery at play. We got spell work, we got gossiping, maybe even lying, deception, incantations. We got scrying, we got spying, We got collusion and corruption here. We got binding. We got, what is it when you charm? We got charm here. We got glamour. You name it. It's like somebody or some folks have all types of shit going on. It's all types of tricks up their sleeve to entrap divine beings or beings that would be divine if not for the detour that they've taken by their choices, you know, or would be actively operating in their divinity if not for the detour taken. It should be a soul captivated for the lower frequencies, but this animosity here says otherwise, that somebody still has the potential to get to it, you know, and by it I mean their divine nature or their organic selves, even if it takes the rest of their lifetime to do it, and that they still have support and best wishes in that regard and on their behalf that are more or less kind of like, you know, breaking the yoke from a distance. So somebody's going to reach where they need to go one way or another. And, you know, for what it's worth, this just might have been the path that needed to be taken, like I said, so that it can stick. So God bless all that can relate in any regard to this. You know, God bless and Godspeed to be activated in the highest frequency of love and light, purified and even conformed in that same regard. It is so, and so it is. All right. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Until next time, as always, I leave you with peace.